Today we move into chapter 17, the theme, the power of a corrupt church. The Bible talks about having a form of godliness but denying the power. Probably the most dangerous church is a church that looks alive, looks like it's doing something, but in reality, it's not. It's a false church. You know, the seven bowl vial judgments, we talked about that in Revelation chapter 16, but all of a sudden, Revelation chapter 17, verse 1, we continue it.
Revelation 17. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me,
Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters.
And again, we look at the seven plagues, the boils, the water turning to blood, the extreme heat, the darkness, the spirits, and the hailstones. As a matter of fact, we can see some of that actually happening today. If you read the newspapers about this last summer, it talks about the historic heat wave, shows how climate change hits poor people the hardest. Again, you're not going to say it's God's judgment, you're going to say it's climate change. How about this? Sitting or falling on the sidewalk, especially dangerous because pavement absorbs heat and can reach temperatures of 180 degrees in Phoenix, causing severe burns. So Phoenix was so hot this summer that they said, don't even touch the sidewalk because it'll burn you.
With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
There are three different Babylons. The first is the geographical Babylon, founded by Nimrod, the great-grandson of Noah. It's mentioned second to Jerusalem. Out of the 404 verses in Revelation, it's mentioned 42 times, almost 10%. It was the birthplace of rebellion, home of the Tower of Babel. It was a place God confused the languages. It was a place of bondage for the disobedience of God's people. But strangely enough, it is the modern-day Iraq. Saddam Hussein tried to rebuild Babylon. I don't know if you remember that. They had a big rock concert and had all these musicians come in, and they wanted to make it very festive. But Saddam Hussein tried to rebuild Babylon, and many believe that the Antichrist will rule from that very location. Is Babylon again rising from the ashes? That was from the Jerusalem Post, February 21st, 2022. There is growing evidence the Iraqi government is serious about rebuilding this ancient wonder of the world. Now, are they building it just to show how great they are? Or maybe they're even making the palace preparation for the one world leader, the Antichrist. The second is a commercial Babylon. This system is established in Revelation chapter 13 and is destroyed by God in Revelation 18. This system is controlled by the Antichrist, and he will demand that everyone join the system or die 666. Now, the third Babylon is the ecumenical Babylon. This is a religious system that leads the world into false worship. The commercial Babylon will destroy the ecumenical Babylon.
And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire.
This is not a pretty crime scene, folks. I mean, when the Antichrist turns on the woman, she is not going to like it, and it's not going to be pretty. Mystery Babylon, I would say, is the bartender of the tribulation period. The earth has been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Now, I know a lot about drunks. I've been around drunks most of my life. My dad was an alcoholic, my brothers, everybody in my family drank except my mother. So I'm going to kind of give you some indications of what drunkenness is like. The first thing I'd like to show you is a drunk has tremendous mood swings. Their moods can change in a second. They can look at you and say, "You're my best friend in the whole world. I love you." And then in the same breath, "I'm going to knock you out." They have a huge mood change. And you know what? Those in the church who are drunk with the wine of Babylon have the same thing. I come in, I give my personal testimony, I talk about being in reform school, and I talk about how Jesus Christ changed my life, and everybody has tears rolling down their eyes, and they're so excited and praise God, and they're lifting their hands and thanking Jesus for all that. And then I start talking about witchcraft and talking about how it's infiltrating their home, and all of a sudden they go from, "Oh, we love you," to, "I can't believe he talked about Frozen. Everybody knows that Disney's all right, it's safe for children. What does this mean?" You see what I'm talking about? The mood change. The second thing, they don't fear the consequences of their actions. It's called false courage. Now, I grew up in a duplex, and it was in the projects. And I remember we had somebody living right next door to us. His name was Pee Wee Lyons. Now, Pee Wee probably weighed about 90 pounds with 2 bricks in his back pocket. And he was married to Teresa. Now, Teresa was a pretty stout lady. And when they would get in a fight, boy, I'll tell you what, we'd move the clothes around in the closet, and we'd put our ear next to the wall, and we could hear them fight. Boy, they'd be cursing each other. They'd be slapping. You could hear the slaps because, I mean, it was just a very thin wall. And then I remember one day, my dad and Pee Wee came home, and they were drunk. And Pee Wee said, "Ernest, I'm going to go whip that one." My dad said, "Pee Wee, why don't you just lay down there and sleep it off a little bit, buddy?" "No, sorry. I'm going to go and I'm going to whip that one." Daddy couldn't talk him out of it. He walked right out of our door, right into her door, and we all went and put our ears next to the wall to hear what was going on. And that fight didn't last long because he took a swing at her, and when he did, he fell down and broke his arm. We had to take him to the doctor. But you know what he had? He had false courage. You know what I see when I see Christians who have false courage? "Oh, watching Harry Potter, that won't bother my children. They go to church." "Oh, having witches and spell casting, oh, that won't hurt my children." You see, they've got a false courage. They stagger and cannot walk a straight line. It seems like when a Christian is drunk with the wine of Babylon, they can't stay straight. They get off on this doctrine, get off on that doctrine, get off on this bad thing, get on that bad thing. They go different directions. They cannot walk a straight line. Now, the next thing we notice is when they pass out, you can't wake them up. Now, my dad used to come in, he'd be so drunk, he'd pass out, he'd be like that. And I mean, I'd lift his arm and drop it, lift his arm, drop it. You can't wake him up. You can holler, "Fire, fire." I used to think it was so amazing that my dad could sleep through all that because he was passed out. He wasn't just sleeping, he was passed out. And you know what I find out about Christians? I find that Christians that are drunk with the wine of Babylon, you can't wake them up. You can tell them some of you watching this video right now, and you kind of think, I'll take some of the stuff, but I ain't going to take everything. No, I'm still going to let my children do this. You can't wake them up. They've passed out. You see, Mystery Babylon is an ecumenical alliance of churches that hate true believers. These churches will be aligned with the global governance. This will be the establishment of a global religious system against the converts saved during the tribulation period. Now, you have to understand that Jesus was crucified by religious people. Religious people can do a lot of damage. I'm not talking about saved people. I'm talking about people who have a form of godliness. I'm talking about the false church. The global church will unite as one. They will unite as one because they will see nothing wrong with immorality. There's nothing wrong with homosexuality. There's nothing wrong. Early in one of our productions, we talked about Christian witches. They don't see anything wrong with Christian witches. They don't see anything wrong with Christian homosexuals. They don't see anything wrong with immorality. They will see nothing wrong with idolatry. They will see nothing wrong with paganism and the New Age movement. And that is happening right now. They will preach tolerance towards their sin while killing those who disagree with their lifestyle. This church will accept the false prophet as their leader. This religious system will be destroyed by the Antichrist because it becomes a conflict with the worship of himself. The Antichrist sees that people are worshiping this false religion. He says, they're not paying attention to me. I want them to worship me. And so he said, I'm not going to tolerate it. So what does he do? He puts a stop to that. Now let's look at the difference between the true church and this religious atrocity. First, the false church, she is a prostitute. The true church, she's a bride. The false, she's vile. The true, she's virtuous. The false, she appeals to the world. She compromises. The true church is sold out to Christ. The false church is sold out to secularism. She sheds the blood of the saints, and the true church spreads the gospel. She is supported and loved by a global governance, and the true church is targeted and hated by the global governance. She holds the cup of corruption filled with the blood of the saints. The true church, she holds the cup of Christ, which is filled with the blood of Jesus Christ.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
So we know that Mystery Babylon is a false religious system. We know that the beast is the kingdom of the Antichrist.
And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abomination.
This is not your average street prostitute. She is arrayed in purple. This is a symbol of royalty. She is treated with the highest respect. If you remember when we talked about the 7 churches, Thyatira was known for this purple dye, and it was very expensive. She displays her wealth with gold, precious stones, and pearls. This religious system will not need any fundraisers. The devil has never had a financial problem. And finally, her cup is filled with everything the world loves and God hates.
And upon her forehead was a name written,
Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
When we come back for our next session, we'll continue talking about that great harlot.